Enough to really wind you up.
Yeah, enough to really make me piss blood.
Well, it's the smallest things that annoy us, dude, isn't it?
It is.
Well, on that note of things that annoy us, I'll tell you one thing that I learned this week.
Go on.
It's not super interesting, but did you know that only the males are called peacocks? The females are called peahens.
I did know this,
Hmm.
but I didn't know it was. Now you've said it that way, but because I knew the females are called hens, but I thought they were both still peacocks. That makes sense now though, because like cockerels and hens. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's actually not that interesting.
Peacock, peahen. Yeah, but I like stuff like that though, because like you sit there thinking about it, and it never even occurs to you, and then when it's pointed out, you're just like, oh, it's just that fucking obvious.
Yes, of course.
I really am a fucking idiot.
But well, there was another thing that I looked at on the terms of animals. There was a little thing only scrolling through somewhere, and it says if you feed canaries red pepper, they'll actually change colour to red.
Nice.
Yeah, it says there's a
I know
special.
you could do that with eggs.
Sorry.
There's a restaurant out in America somewhere, and this bloke he's like really big on the whole farm to table thing. Like his restaurant's basically on his farm. So like when you're driving past his vegetables, it's like, oh yeah, you could be eating that at some point. He's like really big on it, but he feeds like eggs. Sorry, he doesn't feed eggs to his chickens. It's sadly mental. He feeds like chilies to chickens because they haven't got the pain receptors for spice. So to them, it would be no different eating a sweet pepper or a tomato. But the redness in the pepper makes their egg yolks have like a sort of red and orange marble effect to it, and he serves those in his restaurant. It gives them like a boosting flavour or something like that. But yeah, it's mental.
I really want to try a chili egg now.
Bloody egg.
Oh, well, yeah, apparently it's true. I've just had a look. It says there's a special pigment located in canaries' wings that's responsible for their colour. That's why their feathers develop different tinges due to sun rays or food consumed by the birds. Yellow canaries consuming red pepper will turn orange or completely red. Boom.
That's insane.
Let's
get a canary.
Yeah, we'll start. Well, just have the video of us. Just a canary.
What if it's a green pepper? Will he turn green?
I don't know. Oh, I don't know, mate. Probably. Who knows? But onto
an aubergine.
A fucking purple one. A purple bird fly.
Yeah, mate.
Well, talk about purple. Talk about crazy stuff. After your little I was going to say rant, but it wasn't really a rant last week. It was more like
it was a bit of a rant.
It was a major education. Well, maybe educational. It depends how much was factual, because we don't fact check a lot.
Oh no.
No one's got time for that.
Checking's for nerds.
But I thought I want to find something that makes me laugh. I want to find something that we can chat about. And then I come across, funny enough, epidemics and pandemics. And I thought, what a more cheery subject to have a look at than
you never really hear about them anymore.
It's I can't. I'll try to say something half smart back, but it's like, what can I say? Oh, dude. So yes. So apart from the boring one we have to endure at the moment, I found a good one here. I found a good one, and it's not what I mentioned last week. If anyone's listening from last week, I will cover that. But I found out there's a epidemic, and there's only a little bit of information on it because I didn't do too much research because I'm going on to the dancing one in a minute. But there was a epidemic called the Tanganyika laughter epidemic, which lasted 6 to 18 months. And basically, the laughter started in a village school in fuck's sake, it says Tanzania. I can't even read it. So a school in Tanzania with 3 girls just started laughing, and it affected over 1,000 people. Some ended up crying, screaming, and fainting before eventually dying out.
Mate,
which is pretty
that
bonkers,
is
isn't it?
Creepy stuff. Why hasn't a film been made about that yet?
Yeah, 3 little girls just start laughing, and then all of a sudden 1,000 people in this village.
Yeah,
fucking. That's terrifying.
There's got to be like an Asian horror movie based on that somewhere, like down in the vaults, like you say, they could even do it with like 3 girls, just like they appear and just start giggling, and like their victim just giggles themselves to death, something like that. There's bound to be a horror movie somewhere. The Asians, mate, they make the best horror movies.
Yeah, they do. It's because they can get away with a lot more, and they don't really give a fuck, do they?
That's it. And they're like, makeup budget, forget it. And they just lay down awesome films.
They certainly do. So obviously on that note of people dying and epidemics, I thought, well, let's just get straight into the good. Let's get straight into the good stuff, which obviously I spoke about last week. Briefly touched upon it. The dancing epidemic. I think it's called the dancing epidemic or the dancing plague. They list it as. And the long and short of it is, yeah, people were dancing and they literally danced themselves to death, and no one knows why.
No one knows why.
No, except when you start to do some research, and obviously that was just my forebit. When I go into it, I'll read off, and then we can go from there. See what you reckon. So, in July 1518, so we're going back a fair way.
Yeah, this is pre-internet, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So it's not just some internet fad that people are going, oh, I want to join in. Let me play TikTok.
Yeah, this wasn't a fucking 4chan plague or anything.
No, that's right. This probably actually happened, unless people are that inventive back then. So, okay, so in July 1518, a woman whose name was given as Mrs. Trefay. I'm going to say Trefay, and if it's wrong, then I'll correct it later. Basically, she stepped into the street and began dancing. She seemed unable to stop, and she kept dancing until she collapsed from exhaustion. After resting, she resumed with the compulsive frenzied activity. She continued this way for days, and within a week, more than 30 other people were similar. Fuck's sake, it's another one of them weeks, I can tell. Similarly afflicted. They kept going long past the point of injury. City authorities were alarmed by the ever-increasing number of dancers. The civic and religious leaders theorised that more dancing was the solution. Obviously, if there's fucking crazy people dancing, why not just make everyone dance? Come on, everyone. I know they're having a funny turn, but get involved with it.
Let's go disco.
Let's go disco. So they arranged for guild halls for the dancers to gather in, musicians to accompany the dancers, and professional dancers to help the afflicted to continue dancing. Now that seems a bit fucking backwards. If you've got a random bunch of people who are having a bit of a funny turn, dancing away for no reason, and then the government's like, guys, what you want to do? Why don't we give you a hall to dance in, and we'll get more professional dancers so you can never stop dancing ever?
At some point, you've got to wonder if maybe they were just taking the piss.
What, the government or the people?
when you look back and it's like they see someone afflicted with their major disease is like they can't stop dancing, and one of them goes, "Oh mate, let's get a band playing." Do you know what I mean? That sounds like they're taking the piss to me.
It would do, wouldn't it?
That's like if I went down to town and I saw like 3 people in wheelchairs and then was like, I know, let's arrange a race. Do you know what I mean? We'll get a crowd and some commentators. Oh, it will be brilliant.
And we'll get more people in. We'll get more racers in.
Yeah, we'll get more people in, and then before you know it, you've got the Special Olympics.
Well,
so is it still called the Special Olympics?
Paralympics, I think it's called.
Paralympics, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Special Olympics, fuck me, how old are you?
Right, I only found out like 10 years ago that it's not called Emmerdale Farm anymore.
Oh shit, no, do you know, my mum always calls it Emmerdale Farm still.
Does she?
Or she calls it Dingledale, and I'm like, what the fuck is Dingledale? She's like, oh, because the Dingles. What? Sound like you speak a different language, girl.
Mate, Dingledale sounds like something that was like a symptom for like dancing plague. Have they got the Dingledales?
Yeah. Oh shit, he's got the Dingledale. Right, lock him up.
Send in some dancers. On Gangnam Style and call the doctor.
So on top of this government giving them halls and dances, for people to gather in.
Yeah, for more people to catch the bloody Dingledale.
So it says this only exacerbated the contagion, which I guess means increases.
Exacerbated it, yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake, he's exacerbate. Oh, guys, I'm so sorry. If anyone wants to send me a fucking dictionary or pronunciation book, what's it called? Or just send us anything.
Yeah.
Send me anything. So yeah, so apparently, so it didn't help, and it exacerbated, the contagion.
Funny, ain't it?
Yeah. And then it goes, as many as 400 people were eventually consumed by the dancing compulsion. A number of them died from their exertions, estimated 15 a day. And within 2 months, the mania began to abate.
I reckon they just had their first festival.
Quite possibly. Maybe someone heard a tune, or it was like...
Yeah, maybe people are looking back on it a bit too in depth, and something caused them to... Or it was like one of the first Glastonburys. People die at these things. It happens.
Yeah, and you got to think, if you're back
and
in
this is 500 years ago. Yeah, there's more to kill you.
And there's pots and pans, and someone's going like... And someone's like, that's cool. And everyone's going, yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, it was one of the first Woodstocks, I reckon.
They dropped some pills. They had some fun.
They licked some mushrooms. They swallowed a toad or something. They all went crazy. They got the booze out. They had themselves a right good old one, I reckon.
Well, so I was thinking, okay, and that's all there is. That is all the information about that. It's like very small, but it's highly documented in lots of places. However, I was like, well, there's got to be a reason behind it. There must be some theories as to why this happened. And there is 2 theories of why this happened.
And how long did this go on for again, sorry?
2 months.
Oh, yeah.
But there's been at least 3 or 4 instances of this happening almost exactly the same way.
It's festivals, mate. I'm telling you now, even if you had Download Festival today that lasted 2 months, I reckon you'd get the same amount of casualties.
You would get 15 people a day, wouldn't you?
You would. 100%.
God. Oh, do you remember festivals? Do you remember being outside?
Yeah.
And what people look like?
Yeah. I wonder what the great ball of fire in the sky is up to these days.
Oh, I saw it on TV the other day.
Oh, you lucky bastard.
So on the causes or the theories of why this happened, yeah, I'll tell you what I've got. So there's two reasons. It's either stress-induced mass hysteria.
Oh yeah, I've heard about this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and they just say it's an example of psychogenic movement disorder happening in mass hysteria, which involves many individuals suddenly exhibiting the same bizarre behaviour. The behaviour spreads rapidly and broadly in an epidemic pattern.
Same thing happened with the old Spanish influenza.
Really?
Yeah, there was a bunch of people. They all got together, I think, out in the desert somewhere. I'm probably remembering this wrong. But thousands of people all said they saw a great bright light in the sky. I reckon it was the sun, but what do I know? But they also reckon they saw the Virgin Mary up on the hillside as well. Like thousands of people said like she came down from this light in the sky. And then I think a year later to that date was when the Spanish influenza broke out. Or something like that. But they were saying like, oh, how do you explain all these people seeing the same thing? And they were like this, mass hysteria, like you were just saying about.
But it's weird, the whole mass hysteria thing, because it comes down to what we was talking about, I think it was last week or maybe the week before, when we was talking about how easily altered your memories can be.
Yeah, how suggestive we are, yeah.
That's it, how suggestive we are, because if someone says like, oh, did you see that? And someone goes, no. But if everyone else in the group of like, say 10 people saw it, then when the stories go round, then the person who didn't see it is eventually going to go, oh yeah, Mary was on the hillside. She was wearing this and wearing that. And then...
Yeah.
And then they believe it, like the Bob Lazar thing. Bob Lazar last week, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. It happens all the time, especially in groups, because people can add to it, and then in the hysteria of it all, where you're more vulnerable, you're more susceptible to these sort of things. And, like you can sit there and be like, oh, the spider came out. It was it was huge. How big do you think it was? And one of them goes, oh, it was easily 6 inches across. I know for a fact it was. And he was like, yeah, it was like 6 inches across. And it's, you're agreeing with him because it's like, no, he sounds like it and he saw it. So,
yeah.
And then it gets bigger and bigger. And people are like, oh, did you see this? He saw this spider in his front room or whatever. And it was like fucking 8 inches across or something. And yeah, like so, yeah, that's sort of where a lot of it comes into, I think, and it sort of starts off. But when it's
Another,
spontaneous like that, it's like something's got to be there to make people all go a bit doolally. So maybe like the mass hysteria, maybe that's like one of the early symptoms.
yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah, maybe it's cordyceps. It's got into them, and it's made them sort of sit around, sitting there going, "Can anyone else hear music?" And then all of a sudden, when all the mushrooms are getting ready to burst through the skin, they're like, "Get them outside and dance them to death, so we can grow as fast as possible."
Oh. But it makes you laugh because I kind of think like, why would you just randomly dance like or follow in a group of things? But I suppose it's the same in anything, isn't it? Like in school, if you see a group of people running, you're going to follow it. You don't know why you're following it.
Yeah.
You just want to follow it. Or
Well,
a
that's why
line at the,
stuff gets trending now, doesn't it? On social media, we just go where the crowd goes.
yeah, yeah, man.
When something's popular, everyone's like, "Oh, what's this?" And then before you know, if everyone's doing a TikTok challenge or a nice bucket challenge, it's like, "Why are we doing this?" I don't know. Everybody else did it.
Why we tipping ice water over ourselves in -4? You're going to freeze
Yeah,
to death.
this fucking sucks.
This isn't fun. I'm going to die of pneumonia.
Yeah, but everybody else did it.
Well, or the other cause, what they believe is the cause. This is where it gets good. This is where it gets good. So
Aliens.
very close, my friend.
Oh, God damn.
They think it's the fungus, the mushrooms. Some believe the dancing could be brought on by food poisoning caused by toxic psychoactive chemical products inside the ergot fungi, which commonly grows on grains such as
Same with
rye.
same with the Salem witch trials.
Yes, that's right. Oh, fuck me. Have you read this? It says here at the bottom, the same fungus has been implicated in major historical anomalies, including Salem witch trials.
Look at that. Aaron knows his stuff every now and then.
Yeah, man.
If it's about the occult and psychedelics, Aaron's suddenly your man.
What was it
But,
with the Salem witch trials then? How did that get into the mushrooms? How did the mushrooms affect that?
well, it was. Well, I think this thing is like a type of mold, like you say, it grows on like maize and stuff like that,
Mm.
which obviously over here is sweet corn. And yeah, so they would just eat it, like I said, they get food poisoning, but then suddenly they would like people would just start tripping, and they'd
Right.
be like this. Someone might see a woman, like she might be down by the water washing, and then he sees and it's like she was walking around on the fucking water. She's a fucking witch. And then,
Right.
of course, another woman, she'd be tripping and she'd be like, "Oh, God, there's loads of bats in my house." They'd be like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, this bitch is mental. She must be a witch." So
Ah.
if a bloke saw a woman doing something mental, it was, well, she's obviously a witch. If she saw something mental, it was like, damn, she's a witch. It was really one-sided back then. But people moan about some of the sexist stuff today. It's like, mate, they couldn't win back then.
Yeah, they got it easy now, haven't they?
They have, compared to back then when it was, oh, yeah, they seriously couldn't win back then, man.
It's like,
It was like one of the things they did with it was like, oh, throw her in the river. Or what happens? Well, if she sinks and drowns, we know she's not a witch because witches wouldn't die from that. But if she floats, then we've got to hang her.
yeah. Oh,
That
nice.
was yeah, that was the options. It's like, oh well, you either get hung or you drown.
I read another one about the witch trials of like they used to boil a pot of oil and drop a metal ring in there, and they have to get the metal ring. If they get the metal ring and pull it
Jesus.
out, they'll get hung because they're being a witch. And if they don't, obviously you die of your injuries because you've just put your hand in a boiling pot of oil. It's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? You're never gonna win that shit.
Oh no, it's never going to happen.
God, fuck me. You know, and we think it's bad nowadays that you have to queue to get up to a supermarket.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Well,
unfair.
there was this old book called the Malleus Maleficarum, I think it's called, which is, I think it translates to like Hammer of Witches or something like that. And it was written by this. Oh, he was a witch hunter, like one of the original like witch finder generals, like in Europe back in the day. And this book was basically about like how to capture and interrogate witches. And it's just a book about this guy. I think he was called like Heinrich Kramer or something. And yeah, it's basically a book on how to sufficiently torture women.
Fuck.
Yeah, and it was like it's one of the first books to be like majorly reprinted, just because of the whole witch scandal thing that went on. And it was a terrible time in history.
It was
And
Heinrich Kramer.
it was Heinrich Kramer. Yeah,
Yep.
there was a second author as well. I can never remember his name. Um, did I even get the name of the book right?
Malus Maleficarum.
Yeah.
Or Malefic. I don't know how you say it. I'm not fucking Latin or German or whatever you want to fucking say.
But yeah, and there was loads of stuff, and there was like some of the ways they would like torture some of these women. It was absolutely awful. Like they would just like they would like hang weights on them, like, but it would be like some of the times it'd be on hooks. They would go through the skin, and there'd be like a weight on it, and it was if their skin tears, obviously they're not witches, but but if they can hold it up, then well. But of course, there's a lot of stuff about the Salem witch trials saying that they used to burn women, but they didn't. They used to either drown them or hang them over in Salem. But there was a lot of witch burning going on in Europe.
I think that's crazy, man.
Yeah,
Imagine being a fucking bloke and your missus is like, up for a witch trial, and you're like thinking, you've lost your wife anyway, ain't you? Straight away.
yeah. Well, and back then, because of like religious doctrine, and it was like quite a zealotry back then. Like people weren't just religious; they were fanatics. A lot of these husbands turned in their wives.
Oh shit.
Yeah, because they were like, my fucking wife's possessed. She's a fucking witch. She's get her. Because they were just like, if they don't save her and don't grass her up, she's not going to be able to get into heaven.
Oh
So
yeah, shit.
yeah, so it was proper mental back then. But, oh man, yeah. But there was like some really grueling stories. This was documented by a few people. So if you've got your typey fingers ready, people, ladies and gentlemen at home, here's a horrific one for you. There's quite a famous story, and I can't remember where it was. It was in Europe somewhere. I think it might have been France. But yeah, this woman was put on the stake, and she was pregnant at the time, and the heat caused her stomach to split open, and the baby inside shot out of her womb. And one of the guards watching picked the baby up and threw it onto the fire.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, this is the sort of thing that went on, and back then, man, and it was never, men were never sort of like, I think very few men were tried as witches, but it was, I think it was like single digits. It was very few. And these were normally the guys who pretty much just hanging out of the coven, just banging witches, I think. These like your old school Satanists, they were like, these chicks are crazy, man. But, yeah, but there are also practicing witches as well back in the day. There's always been, we've always had them, but they were more like, well, they would be sort of associated as witches there. In other places, they might be associated as doctors.
All right, yeah.
It's like if you went over to like China around the same sort of time, they'd be like doing the herbs and medicine and the whatnot. They'd be the doctors. If they do the same thing in Europe, they'd be like, oh, witches. So it was very cultural.
Yeah, it just sounds like you're gonna get screwed either way, though, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no winning.
It was a different world back then, man. And yeah, I think it was Sarah Good. I'm just getting a few names for people to Google. Sarah Good even was a witch that was pregnant while she was burned at the stake, and there was another one as well. This is what happens when you close a window, when you fucking try to get information. Yeah, well, Sarah Good for everyone. They can go and look at her and then find their own way from that one. So yeah, going from what I was saying about the dancing plague and shit. It's like, okay, so what's the crack then? Is it to me, my opinion, it sounds like it's the fungi or the mold or whatever it is that's going to fuck you up, innit? And like it says, it's for a month, and a lot of people do get ill for a long period of time, and back then they would have been ill for a month or longer.
Well, yeah, we didn't even know what bacteria was at the time.
No.
Or anything like that. So there was no like hygienic procedure.
And no one would know that you was ill, would they? Really, they'll just think, what the
No.
fuck is wrong with you? You know, you're just dancing, and that's not really. You're not throwing up. You're not like shitting yourself. You're just dancing. So I think a lot of people wouldn't even see that as
So were there no like other symptoms then?
no, nothing. They appeared to be well. That's one of the lines. They appeared to be well mannered, uh, not famined. Yeah, basically, there was nothing wrong with them, except they just danced and danced and danced until some of them died from exhaustion.
That's insane.
Bit of a weird one, isn't it? And then, then I started thinking about the mass hysteria and thinking about how people love
Sorry,
making.
before you
Yeah.
like you were saying about the whole fungus thing,
Mm.
we know that just from the past few episodes we've discussed fungus, that they are way more capable of doing much cooler things than just making people dance. So I don't see why the fungus thing is more than plausible.
Precisely.
You
Yeah.
know, like with the Wood Wide Web and stuff like that, the things they're capable of doing, like even with the cordyceps and the spiders.
Yeah.
Like making a bunch of people dance, that's just something you do for practice, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean, man. It sounds really like once you know about like the funguses and stuff that we've researched, like last week especially, or the week before, I can't fucking remember now. And it's like, yeah, of course that they're able to do this. And if all they're doing with that is fucking making people dance, I mean, like you say, we've seen the Wood Wide Web, and they're talking to trees and plants and berries and birds and the the cordyceps with the spiders growing out of them.
Mm.
You know, they can do more than this, man. They can do more than that.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that's my view. It's probably the fungus, you know, kicking ass, doing its thing. And then I started to think about the mass hysteria and how weird it is that people just love making shit up or going along with stuff without proper evidence.
Mm.
Which leads me on to my next epidemic.
Oh.
And it's called the Mad Gasser of Matune.
All right. Where's Matune?
America, somewhere, Illinois.
Ah. So a
So
name like Matune, I was expecting like, I don't know, like Africa or something.
oh, you racist.
Maybe.
Or just well educated. Maybe, maybe not.
But I thought Matune was in Africa. I'm not well educated.
So, shall I read about the Mad Gasser of Matune?
Please do.
And see what we can come up. See what we can come up with this crazy one.
Mm.
So, the Mad Gasser of Matune was the name given to the person or people believed to be responsible for a series of apparent gas attacks that occurred in Matune, Illinois, during the mid-1940s. So we're not too far away.
Mm.
More than 24 separate cases of gassings were reported to police over the span of 2 weeks, in addition to many more reported sightings of the suspected assailant. The gassers' supposed victims reported smelling strange odours in their homes, which were soon followed by symptoms such as paralysis of the legs, coughing, nausea, vomiting. However, no one died and had no serious medical consequences because of the phantom mad gasser of Matune. That's the brief intro.
Nice.
So basically, there's something going round, and people started spotting them. So let's have a look. I'm going through my notes, people. Okay, here we go.
My money's on the military testing out a non-lethal sort of like knockout product.
Well, we'll see it through to the end and see what we get.
Yeah, just throw a few canisters into the suburbs and those lower paid areas, and if no one dies, Bob's your uncle. If they do, who cares? That's what it was like back then, man.
To be honest, if you're trying to make a gas that makes people go asleep and, you know, they don't die from it, I mean, that's really good. Imagine throwing that in an enemy base and they're all asleep. You can go in.
They all start shitting themselves, vomiting all over the floor, fucking masturbating with crucifixes. I don't know. I weren't there. But that's how you cause mass hysteria.
Would have been a different story if he was, though, wouldn't it?
Poor mate.
So this mad gasser, right? They described the gasser as being a tall, thin man dressed in dark clothing, wearing a tight-fitting cap.
Fucking Slenderman.
Yeah, well. And another report, made a few weeks later, described the gasser as being a female dressed as a man. Oh dear.
The Trans.
Oh dear.
They're after us.
The Gasser has also been described as carrying a flit gun, which is an agricultural tool for spraying pesticide, which apparently he used to expel the gas.
That's
So that's
what
all.
I'd use.
Yeah, that's what I would use as well, wouldn't you? Like
Yeah.
what you do with the weeds in the garden and that.
Yeah. Like one
So
of those little things. You hold the canister in one hand, you're spraying with the. Yeah, I'd use that. It would make me feel like that guy from No Country for Old Men as well at the same time.
make you feel like a hero.
Yeah, carrying the canister around. Yeah, so that's cool. So when they say like people saw him, are these like eyewitnesses who just saw people like going around doing shit?
Yeah, there's how many lists is here? There's a list on Wiki of people who saw it, but I mean these are so vague. I mean, it only happened in like 2 weeks in September as well, in 1944, and all these people say is, someone called Mrs. Burt Kearney of Marshall Avenue first reported seeing someone near a window. That was it, and apparently that was enough to put it down as this mad gasser. Someone else 5 days later became ill after smelling a cloth found on her porch. Sorry, why are you smelling anything you find on the porch? If I find something outside my fucking house, I don't go and smell it and see what it is.
Yeah, people were stupid back then, though.
What, like 60 years ago?
Yeah.
And then
100%, mate. And also the ladies back then, man, they were conditioned into thinking everything was a Disney movie. You know, it's like, all grow up and, they were protected from the outside. What? They didn't know anything. They didn't have like social media to throw panic at them. They were just told what the only time they had about anything bad was when they got into school and they were like hearing horror stories. Everything outside of that was like, oh, what's this? Oh, hello. Oh, fuck me, it's a chloroform rag someone left in the fucking porch, bastards.
But it seems a bit funny because I'm reading through here now, and on September the 5th, 6th, yeah, so there's 4 cases. A Leonard Burrell, Lauren Junkin, and a Mr. Fred Goebel all became ill after smelling a cloth found on the porch. They've all got the same fucking notes on their death. On the police report. So why? Why are people? Oh, and they're all in the same fucking. I don't know what America's like or how it's laid out, but North 21st Street, North 13th Street, North 15th Street, and North 15th Street. So I guess they're pretty close to each other. Maybe.
Well, yeah. When they're all like numbered streets in North something or other, so
yeah,
they're in the same sort of region.
And then there's 4 more sightings on the 6th saying they saw a prowler believed to be the gasser. No details of what he looked like, just they saw someone acting suspiciously. One person.
Did he have a salmon?
You get arrested for that shit, dude.
Yeah.
And one's got here, saw blue vapor and heard a motorized buzzing sound, believed to be from gassing machinery. But there's no proof. There is no proof that all these things are so vague.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. It's like they'll notice something, and then they might just suddenly think like, "Oh, did you see anybody looking suspicious?" And then they'll look back and think, "I saw someone around that sort of time. I hadn't seen them before." So they must be correlated somehow. And then before you know it, you're just describing some bloke who was out on a jog who was probably running past going, "The fuck is that smell?"
Yeah, it's bizarre, man. And like obviously, there's a few things here of people, and it's who's the person? There's someone called Urban Rafe. Woke up in the early hours of the morning to a strange odour. He felt nauseated and weak and suffered from a fit of vomiting. Suspected he was suffering from domestic gas poisoning. He went to check the kitchen stove to see if there was a problem with the pilot light, but found out he was partially paralysed and unable to leave the bed. I mean, I think that it just maybe possibly that some people got ill, or you know what it's like with. Look at us two. I mean, I've got a sniffle nose today. I'm not feeling too great. You're not feeling too great.
Maybe these people all just happen to be at the same bad burger joint the same night.
That's
They
it.
had some bad burgers. They swallowed a parasite. They felt like shit for a week.
And yeah, and basically the long and short of all this is they think it's mass hysteria again. Like I think I'm not going to go into the COVID things. We're not going to do it, but things like that, where one person gets ill and then all of a sudden you feel ill. If I knew
Yeah.
if I was near someone who was ill, 2 days later I'd be thinking, oh, am I all right? I'm okay, am I? Oh shit,
Well,
like
it was like with the back when this pandemic was still fun and people were going mental over toilet roll.
yeah,
Yeah, that was mass hysteria because from what I understand is one of the politicians in China, I think, said that the mulch they use to make the masks is the same mulch they use to make toilet roll. So of
right.
course everyone was like, oh, wait a minute. So if they're going to make masks a priority, that means they're going to stop making toilet roll. And it's like, no one said that. We're just saying it's the same thing. But everybody went mental and was like, there's not going to be any toilet roll. And this was all based on like one tiny misunderstanding, but it turned into mass hysteria.
Yeah, saying that, I didn't even put that. I didn't even think about that. But that's right, isn't it? That one
Yeah,
little thing, one person said one thing, and it only takes a few people to start doing it, and then all of a sudden there was no fucking toilet roll.
no, anywhere.
People were
It's
literally
like
selling toilet rolls.
yeah, and there was like all those memes went around, wasn't it? And it was like walking past someone's car and they got like loads of like money on the seat, and like the doors open, they lean right in, go past the money, and grab the toilet roll from the back seat and run off. Just stuff like that. 'Cause it was a proper commodity, wasn't it? It was like proper like Mad Max, like going into pubs and like swapping like sheets of toilet roll for your pint. It was like the new currency.
It was though, and I remember going into like Lidl, Aldi, or Asda, Sainsbury's, you name it, and there was no toilet roll, no toilet paper, there was no kitchen roll, there was no nothing. And it's like,
Even
what
like
the fuck?
the little pocket packs of like Kleenexes or like those sort of like tissues you keep in like your jacket to blow your nose with. Even
Yeah,
those were all gone.
almost anything to wipe your ass with was not available.
Yeah, mate. There we were, all queuing up with our cling film, thinking this is going to be horrible.
Oh, this isn't going to go well, is it?
Yeah. Oh man,
Got your tin foil.
it's going to be a long Christmas.
Oh, and we're still living the dream. We're still doing it.
Yep.
But luckily, it's weird how it just died off as well, wasn't it? Like all of a sudden, it was crazy, and then everything just went back to normal. Like the shops had bog roll again. Everyone
Yeah.
stopped panicking.
I think it got to the point everyone went, right, let's just stop being dickheads for a second, shall we? And then we all just stopped and went, right, yeah, come on, we're not used to this.
Some poor bloke's probably got it in the ear from his missus. Like, Steve, why the fuck have you brought home 48 packs of toilet roll again?
Well, I saw some places were doing it like one toilet roll was like, I don't know, say like $1, or two toilet rolls was $100.
Oh shit,
A
yeah.
lot of them started doing stuff like that, so they were like fucking, and they did the whole thing as well, didn't they? They were like, no, only one packet per customer, come on, and all this, like they got proper on top of it, and then people were sort of after, like you say, it sort of went away straight away. I think after like a week of that, we were like, oh, we were kind of being ridiculous, weren't we?
Yeah, man.
But when people were panic buying, but that's the problem though, with mass hysteria again. I mean, I don't know about you or anything, but we started panic buying because of panic buyers.
Yep.
We were like, if we don't get to the shop before the panic buyers do, we're not going to have fucking anything. and that in and of itself was panic buying.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, no, it's so yeah, I can totally get behind that.
Yeah, and that's what I mean with this mass hysteria thing. So
Yeah, it's a snowball effect, isn't it?
yeah, and it says here that there's a couple of other people sick. The same sort of thing happened again with someone else, but then someone did look into it, and it says the phantom anaesthetist of Matune. It was a field study of mass hysteria by someone called Donald M. Johnson, which documented the Matune
Shout
incident.
out to Donald M. Johnson.
I don't know what he's doing nowadays.
Drugs.
Yeah, probably, and some psychologist called James P. Chaplin as well said basically, yeah, it's a study of phenomena of mass hysteria. So they've basically called it as that and said, you know, there's nothing.
I reckon mass hysteria gets started by the fungus. I think they've got too many chips in the game.
Well, the thing is, they probably have, and the next reason for it comes under toxic waste or pollution, which is also, I think, quite credible for making you go a bit funny.
Absolutely.
You know,
but I just had a thought. What if our states of consciousness, like all these thousands and thousands of years, we've been saying it's the soul, it's this, it's that, it's electrons, it's whatever, it's just the imagination. All this. What if our entire state of consciousness is just a parasite making us believe this is all real, and it's just feeding off of us? I mean, do you think those spiders know that they've been taken over by fungus? Why would we know?
I don't know. Do they? Would you be would you be conscious? You wouldn't be conscious though, would you, of it?
No. You would just be like, I'm going to climb this tree. You're sat there because it's taken over your brain. It's just how your brain is thinking now. And you're like, I'm just going to sit here till I die, quite happily. This is all right.
Fuck.
So what if we're just like walking around in the exact same thing, and it's just it's not people that are creating this massive world of tech and information. It's the parasites that have taken over. We're just the flesh things that's being moved around. Us talking now is the parasites. That are these little mushrooms talking to one another, communicating. What if that's what's going on? It's not the human race that's taking over the world. It's fungus.
The fungal race.
The fungal race. These are just the vehicles we use. These are just the tarantulas we use to get to the top of the tree.
You're one of them. The way you just said that. This is the vehicles we use. You're one of them. You're one of them.
Exactly, mate. Humans are just the love organ for the machine.
Oh, stop it. Fucking yes. I've been reading up on that as well.
We've gone down one.
I know, man, isn't it?
We've taken the listeners with us. Fuck.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
This is what happens when you don't pre-plan.
and that's why we're getting more and more listeners every week. So cheers for that, guys.
Yes, shout out to all you wonderful people out there tuning into the animal kingdom.
That's right, and to everyone who shares, clicks, likes, and everything. You know, it is
absolutely.
It makes our day, it makes our little worthless lives a little bit less worthless. So yeah, that's cool. But yeah, I mean, going back, so I think it's really weird. There's a conspiracy theory or something theory that we are the sex organs of the machine world. That we are basically extincting 100%. We are extincting ourselves by creating AI. And autonomous vehicles and shit like that. So we're not needed. I totally
believe it.
Yeah, so do I. And the more and more stuff that comes out, it's like we could literally be, you know, what is consciousness? What is a person? What is a soul? And how much is a soul really? You know what I mean? It's you can go down so many different routes with it. It's threw me out quite a lot when I read about it because you start to feel really, really insignificant. Like,
yeah, see, this is the thing I was thinking about the other day. It's this thing called cosmic nihilism.
Oh.
And there's this thing where we're like, and they talk about this one aspect, like when someone's about to die, like all the fear that's in their like body and all this, like it doesn't just come down to like, oh shit, this is the end. It's also the shock that it's like, what? This is happening to me. This happens to everybody else, not me.
Right.
Because this consciousness we have, like you could be sat there right now thinking to yourself, like, you know, I'm in control of this body. I was put in this one for a reason. Me existing can't be a coincidence. And this is where people's self-worth gets way higher than it actually is.
Right.
And then when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's like, oh yeah, but you know, I'm in control of this. I must be here for a great reason or whatever. It's like, no, mate, you die, you're gone. There are more. I was watching this stand-up the other day. It's Louis C.K. and he was saying there are more dead people in the world than there are alive. And I was like, shit, when you put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, but with machines, they haven't got to worry about this. They just go on and on and on. I mean, Not if they're made by some companies, then they die after 2 years. You've got to buy a fucking another one. But yes, no names mentioned. Named after a fruit, and but oh yeah, please just go on. I'm rambling.
Yeah, no, but that's it, man. But I completely agree with that kind of aspect. And this is where I know we're going to go down that hole again, even though I'm going to try and take it back to the Mad Gasser. But like when people say about the aliens, about like with their weird little bodies and they look like this, they look like that, that could very much be us in the future if we keep going the way we're going. You don't need muscles if you can use your head, and you don't. And are aliens real or are they synthetic? Are they created by something else? Are they created by us? Oh, don't, dude. Honestly, I'm gonna.
And one of the big symptoms of like being in free fall all the time as well, like these astronauts are, especially on the space station and that, they lose muscle mass ridiculously because there's no gravity. You don't need muscles. You don't need strength to lift anything.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, they would be skinny. They wouldn't have much muscle mass because if they're constantly going around, because like we said before, you know, I'm as much as I'd love to buy into the flying saucers, practically I can't.
Yeah.
You know, I'm more of, like we've touched on before, I'm more into like astrobiology, like the environments of certain planets and what life they would have in that sort of environment as opposed to intergalactic travel. But yeah, if I could get behind the intergalactic travel thing, we'd always be in space. If it was a matter of we can go to any planet we want right now, and it's like no biggie, we'd be like, well, of course we're going to always be in space. And if you're always going to be in space, you're not going to have any muscle mass.
No. The thing is that
and like you said, with a big head as well, it was like if your body hasn't got to burn off any calories or such for the rest of the body, then all that extra energy can go into the brain, which of course their brain's going to expand in size, and eventually they will have big heads.
Yeah, no, I mean I completely agree, man. I would love to buy into the alien thing, and part of me does, but just the sheer lack of evidence, I can't.
Yeah.
And that pains me, really. It does pain me because I think, fuck, I really want to get behind it and like be 100% in, but I just can't. And I love learning about it. And if anyone ever wanted to come on and speak about it and knew enough about it, I would listen and listen and listen. But I just can't get there.
Oh yeah, I'm more than willing to have my mind changed.
Yeah.
If someone can come up and be like, right, here is some like, I mean. This is the thing you got to ask yourself a lot of the time when it comes to stuff like this, and it's like, what would you need to see in order to believe it? And then we'll start from there. But for me, mine starts and ends at I need to see a flying saucer fly over.
Yeah.
I can't have like, oh, look at this website, look at this, read this person's testimony and all this like this. Like, this is all brilliant and well and good, and I'm sure in a court of law it would pass, which is why I can't be a judge. But for me, this starts and ends with I need to see it for myself. I need to go, you know, if I'm walking through the woods one day or something and I come across a crashed UFO, even then I'm going to be like, is this a film set? Have I walked in on something here? Am I allowed to be here? Do you know what I mean?
That's the thing, because it's critical thinking, isn't it? You're not just blindly going, oh, that must be this. You want to get the facts.
Yeah, and my brain has to go to what is the most likely.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Occam's razor. It's the whole no matter how mental or, I mean, I'm completely paraphrasing this. It's like no matter how unlikely something may seem, if it is the most obvious answer, 9 times out of 10, it's because that is the answer. That's why it's the obvious answer. You know, so for me, that's what, if I just said, if I'd walked in on something like that, what are the chances of me walking upon an actual UFO crash site compared to accidentally walking onto a film set?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? 9 times out of 10, I'm walking onto a film set by accident, And that's when my brain's going to go first. I'm going to be like, oh shit, am I supposed to be here? Or I might think it's an art installation. I'll be taking pictures going, look at this is fucking amazing. And then one of them starts twitching and I'm like, oh, hold on.
Oh, hello, what's this? Oh, dear.
Yeah.
But that's where like people who are more susceptible to influence and things like that are going to be going, oh my fucking God, it's an alien, straight away, without even looking at what it is.
Yeah, it's like when we've been walking down, like we've done like in the past or something, we've been walking somewhere from the pub or whatever back in the day, and we can just look up into the sky and you see a Chinese lantern go past.
Yeah.
In the night sky, most of us will look at that and go, oh, Chinese lantern. Whereas most people, some people will look at that, bypass all of that, and because they want to believe in UFOs so much, their mind will be like, that is not a Chinese lantern, that is a UFO. And then your brain will start adding details and look back on it because of how suggestive we are, and we'll be like, oh yeah, well how comes it went over and had 5 lights rotating around it? It never had 5 lights rotating around it, but because your brain wants to believe so much, it adds this, and then you remember it as fact. You're misremembering, and you're just like, but because it's so engraved into you, and you've told this story over and over, you'll just know there was a big light, and around it were 5 lights going in a perfect circle around it at the same speed, catching up with it as it went over. There was no sound, and no, there was no sound. No, it's a Chinese lantern. And it will be like, oh, other people saw the light go over as well. It's like, yeah, but they're saying it was this. It wasn't that. It was a UFO 100%. And when you get people like that, they're very difficult to argue with or persuade otherwise.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I try never to be on, like I like making my mind up about some things and having my concrete opinion, but I'm always up for someone telling me otherwise, and then I'll learn from it. And if they can take me from one side to the other, like we're not going to go into politics, but if you're left and you want to be, and someone convinces you right, then you can swing left and right. You can go Conservative, Labour, whatever. I don't give a fuck, as long as you're open to being, to listening to facts or information.
I've no patience for stubbornness.
No, because where does that get you, really?
Exactly. And there's been many a times before when I love being told I'm wrong. This is the problem we have, is that I think on social media, because people only really say a small amount of what they're trying to get across, but there's no body language or anything like that, it's open for a lot of misinterpretation. And over time, for some reason, people have correlated the word wrong with the word stupid.
Yeah.
And we need to get out of that, because the smartest people in the world are wrong all the time, and that's how they get so smart.
Yeah.
They didn't get that smart by everyone going, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Oh, 100% right. Right again. So, you're so good. You know what I mean? They didn't get there like that. You look at some of these other like famous scientists, Einstein, Mary Curie, Feynman, it goes on, this list. All of their major findings, I think, are incorrect.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make them any less important. Those built the framework which led to the correct answer. And it's like, are we going to sit here and say those people are stupid?
No, that's it. It's like if you have an idea. It's like if you have an idea for something, isn't it? Someone goes, "Oh, no, that's wrong." No,
that's why we do fail safes and we do beta tests.
Yeah. And like, what was it? Tesla, Elon's rocket, SpaceX, when it blew up, everyone's like, "Oh, that's a fucking fail." Is it a fail? Because now you know where something went wrong. Now you know what a weakness is. Now you know what, that's how you progress.
This is exactly right. And like you say, it sums it up in one. That is how you progress. And I mean, I could go on for fucking hours. Again, not going into politics or anything, but it's the same in science all the time as well. Whether it's flat earthers against round earthers, or globalists, as I like to call them.
Globalists.
There's the globalists and the baby eaters. And but whether it's Christian or atheist, if you've got it burnt into your head that no, I'm right and you're wrong, and it's like, but I'm giving you evidence to say, and it's like, and it's not getting, but on the same side of the coin, some people will be there and they will talk down to people because they know they're right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think you need to get a happy medium of, how to try and get someone to think your way as well. Because we've said it before, trying to get someone on your side, name calling probably isn't the best way.
No, that's it, yeah.
And this is why a lot of people who are wrong, and who knows, they're wrong now, they might be right later. But when they're like wrong about something that's like quite a big, and we're sitting there saying, no, you're remembering it wrong. This is how it actually is. And this, so I'm like, no, I'm not going to learn it any other way. You'll get on the same other thing with people who'll be like, no, this is the only way you can see it because this is my way that I can prove.
Yeah.
And both sides have to learn that you have to open yourself up to more points of interpretation. Like, I'll argue with myself. I will sit there and I'll think about something and I'll be like, I'm pretty sure I'm like concrete on that. And then another part of me will be like, but just ask a few questions the other side might ask.
Mm.
And then I think, oh, they probably asked this, they'd ask that, and they'd be like, oh, wait a minute, what's the answer to that one? And I'll think about it and I'll be like, oh, has this changed everything? Because I haven't thought about it from that angle. But now that I agree with that, suddenly those two arguments I had for that original thing, they don't make sense now because of this.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you start moving. And I love when that happens. When I go on a spending spree for books, those are my happy moments because I just go down these rabbit holes about anything. And I just love it. So when someone says to me, no, you're wrong, here's what it is, it gives me more to learn.
Yeah, that's right.
And I love learning shit because that's why we do stuff like this, because you and me, we love learning shit.
That's right. And it's the same as like when I
so good.
And see, now we're learning more. The weed you got is good.
It is.
And it's like when the whole I think flat Earth was big, wasn't it? Like last year or maybe at the beginning of this the COVID crap, people were looking more. And it's probably a couple of years ago. Everyone got really excited about flat Earth, and you saw it fucking everywhere. And now I'm not being funny. I'm not gonna slate anyone who thinks anything. That's not what we do on this. But I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I know what the world is. I think I know. So, okay, what do they think? Why do the flat earthers think this? So I watch documentaries, hour-long documentaries. I listen to podcasts. I listen to stuff. And I'm not being funny, no disrespect to the flat earth community, but dude, you got to get some better representatives, because people shouting that this is factual and science is just a theory is not the way to convince people.
No.
Do you know? I mean, I've listened to stuff and they're like, yeah, well, science is a theory as well. Science is using, tools to prove facts and points to you. You have to take them into consideration. And there's some things science can't explain about the round earth theory. That's how they say it anyway, the round earth theory. And, people should make their own judgments off that. But I honestly think that we can do round earth and flat earth another day. But I honestly think that some of their representatives just scream and shout, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. It's not the way to convince people.
There's an excellent documentary on Netflix at the moment.
Oh, tell me.
I don't think it's an original of theirs, so it'll be only on there for a limited time, I think. But it's called Behind the Curve. And they get some guys on there, and I have to say, the ones they get for that show, some of them are a little off. But you're going to get that in any community.
I've seen that. I'm sure that's one of them. It's a bloke and a woman, isn't it? Mainly.
Yeah, it's Mark Sargent and Patricia Steers, I think their names are.
Yeah, and do they go?
She's hot as fuck.
Yeah, man, that's what I thought.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, they go to they go to the NASA museum and stuff like that together.
Yeah, they shout like it's.
Yeah, they're like, the Earth is flat.
Yeah, that's the one.
But they do tests on there, and they're like, oh yeah, I mean, I cannot remember the name of the gizmos and the gadgets or the science behind these, so please bear with me. But they got this sensor thing, I think it's like a sensor, and they were like, if this comes up with a reading that says 15 degrees, then the world's round.
Right.
But it's not going to do that because we know the Earth is flat. So they turn it on, and it says 15 degrees. And they said before that would mean the world is round.
Yep.
They've saw that and they've gone, that's not the answer we wanted. All right, we'll do another test. Instead of doing the same test again like you're supposed to, they were like, all right, well, let's do it differently. So already they're, as far as experiments go, they've ballsed up.
Yeah.
You've got to repeat your tests. You've got to get those numbers up. But then now they've got this thing, they've put it in some sort of canister and gone, right, now we'll see what it says. And I was like, so now you're just interfering. So when they get, they're hoping then they can open it up and go, oh, now it says 0. Now it's proving our point. But then they opened it up and it still says 15 degrees. And they were like, oh, shit. All right, well, we'll just abandon that test then. Because they didn't get the results they wanted. They abandoned it. It's like, no, that's not science.
No, that's right.
Science is getting a result and then going, well, like it or lump it, that's what it fucking is. And there's no arguing with it. So then they do another test, and this one they're like, oh, let's shine a laser, but that one didn't work out, and that one wasn't so much their fault. The laser they had for the distance they wanted to do didn't dissipate to a small enough thing, so this one was a bit of it just covered the entire board. It was meant to shine this laser, because the whole point of it was, I'll stand here and that will be, we'll say 150 feet. It probably wasn't that, but it was like, right, I want to hold this and shine it. And it should be like, the side of it should be right in the middle. If it's right in the middle, it means the Earth is flat because there's no curvature. Because if it was, otherwise it will be on the top of the board, because obviously it's curved down, all this stuff. But they couldn't do it because they couldn't get to a pinpoint prick on the end because the laser dissipated. So it covered the entire board, so there was no way to read it. So they did it with light instead. They were like, oh, okay, so I mean, it was an interesting experiment that I was going to do, that even the scientists were like, oh, we'd be actually pretty eager to hear what the results are, but it didn't work out. So they did it with the lights instead. So they were like, oh yeah, we'll get these tool things, we'll cut a hole on this one, cut a hole on that one, and again, we'll say 150 feet, I don't know what it was, and they'll be like, right, so if the Earth is flat, I'll be able to see his light if he holds it up at this distance. If the Earth is round and he holds it, I think it was, if he holds it up at 17 feet and I can still see it, we know it's whatever. We know it's flat. If he's got to hold it up higher to compensate for the curvature of the Earth, then we know the Earth is round.
Yeah.
Again, the test shows the Earth is round. They had to do the extra distance to compensate for the curvature. But even then, they're like, interesting, and it's like, no, you can't poo-poo results you don't agree with. That's not science.
No, and equally, as soon as they get a result that would lean towards the Earth being flat, they would jump on it, wouldn't they, and say,
yeah,
this
100%.
is it, it's flat. Yes,
it's. We'll be like, well, this is what your fancy science proved. You can't argue with it now because it's science.
Yeah, dismissing all the other experiments.
Yeah,
and
all the other science that we don't like, we can get rid of. Yes. So, like we say, if you want to believe in the flat Earth, mate, it makes no difference to me. If you want to think that the Earth is cup shaped and we're at the bottom of the bowl, I don't give a fuck.
Same.
It makes no difference on my day. But if you're going to try and convince me over onto your side, you're going to need a hell of a lot more than bad science.
Well, that is it. That is the fucking point.
Yeah, a hell of a lot more, because I can't be bought in that easy. Cults have tried. I'm sure Scientology will come knocking eventually for me. They'll be like, he sounds mental. I reckon he'll be
one of us.
On it. Yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna need more. I'm one of these bad ones. I'm one of those pesky people who needs insufficient things like evidence. I'm petty like that.
but that's how you should be, man. That's how it should be.
It is, and it's like with anything, man. I'm the same with whether it's politics, anything like that. If I'm never strictly one side. If people cut to me and they're like, "Hey, do you agree with this?" I'm like, "No, man," and they're like, "Oh, but do you agree with that?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, this is what these guys do." I'll be like, "Show me," and then I'll be like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that about them, but I don't like that about them." So I can't get behind that, But it's the same with anything. You show me. And not things like, oh yeah, but look at the stats on this website, look at this graph. I don't want to see the
Yeah,
graphs.
that's it.
For me, it's going back to the aliens, and I need to see that UFO, I'm afraid. I need to see the flying saucer hovering above a field, surrounded by the trees like in the movie.
Yep.
And see, when I turn on the news and they sit there going, right, everybody, that giant fucking disc in the sky we can all see, you're not just tripping, we're seeing it too. That is 100% a UFO, and you look at your window and there it is. You'll have a believer out of me.
Yeah, that's when you might go, okay.
Yeah, that's yeah. But until then, no. People's testimonies can be very good, but we've got fiction writers who are awesome.
Yeah,
and there's always something we said before, man. There's always something to gain from these things. Their defense is always, well, they got the gain from lying though, and it's like, I don't know, they just bought a new fucking book out.
Yeah, that everyone's paid for.
Yeah, so and a lot of people just want attention. I mean, just look at some of these people, man, who just want fame. When you sum it down, I feel quite sorry for them because their ultimate goal in life is to make sure everybody knows they exist.
Yeah.
And it's like you are that desperate for attention. Why? And now, you know what? You can be desperate for attention and still be a great person.
Of course.
I'm not trying to take that away from anybody. But if you are that desperate for attention, you think people are going to be past lying to try and get that attention? I mean, I love the film Fire in the Sky. I think it's a great movie. But when I listen to, I can't remember his name, Frank Watkins, I think. I'm probably
Walton, I think.
Yeah, but when I listen to him talk, I think, man, you're full of shit.
Travis Walton.
Yeah. That was it, yeah. And he seems like a nice guy. I'd happily sit down and listen to his story again.
Yeah.
I'd spark one up and sat there and listen to him talk about aliens. But to me, it's a very, very cool fiction. But he's made a living out of it. Fair play to him.
And that's it. Like we said before, like we said with Bob's story, these are genuine guys. They seem pretty straight. They seem pretty up for it. And then it's like, well, what have they got to make from it? But we can see what they can make from it because.
And people enjoying their fiction isn't hurting anybody, is it?
No. Do you not enjoy watching science fiction? Do you not enjoy listening to it? Do you not enjoy reading about it? So just because someone else
into my sci-fi, if someone wants to bring a bit of sci-fi into reality with their questionable thingy, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say Travis Walton's a fucking liar because he might be telling the truth, and I'm more than happy to look into it and maybe even find that truth. Who knows? But going by what I hear, I think it's an awesome story, and I wish you the best of luck. But if you want to make a believer out of me, you're gonna do better than this.
I think that's where it comes down to, and it, dude. Like with anything, this is almost anything. Like when we talk about things like the crazy animals and the crazy this, it's always backed up by something we can look at. Something we can, judge and say, oh, pictures or videos, and I think when we stray onto crazy things like aliens, and I mean, I saw the other day of there's a conspiracy theory out that the moon is a hologram.
I've heard about this. I've never touched in on it as such, but I've heard it in passing.
Yeah, and I mean, like, guys, you got to make your mind up because there's people saying it's the moon is hollowed out and it's got aliens inside of it. Some say
I've heard hollow moon theory. Yeah,
there's a base on the dark side of the moon. There's something. There's something. And then you get the moon hologram theory, and it's like, sorry. And I mean, like, I look at it and think, I think he's actually being serious because people take the piss and people have a laugh, and there's genuine people out there that believe the moon is a hologram with pictures to apparently prove it. And I'm sorry, I can barely give it the time of day, man. And
I know. And this is another thing as well for flat earthers. If they can give me a straight answer on this, it may be the stepping stone for me, maybe listening to them a bit more.
Ooh.
But all I want to know is what do the globalists have to gain from lying about the shape of the Earth? Oh, the government, it's all a government conspiracy and a lie. It's like, what are they gaining?
Well, I've heard, and this is from people like the flat earthing community and stuff, that the reason they don't want it, the reason the globalists want to lie about it being a globe and not a flat disc is because if it is a flat disc, it proves that there's a firmament, and it proves the existence of God and like the dome and things like that. That's why they want you to believe it's a ball rather than rather than a flat Earth, which God created.
How does it being flat prove God's real? I don't.
Because it's got the dome over the flat earthers believe it's got a dome on top, don't they? They believe it's something called the firmament, which is
God.
yeah. So it's like fuck. Sorry guys, if anyone knows this and knows
Almost
better,
like an ozone layer, some might say.
Yeah, but it's solid. Like they believe it's solid glass or solid something. Yeah, and apparently in the Bible somewhere it mentions about a dome over the earth, and that's why they're saying this is all true. The government don't want it to come out because then that proves the existence of God, and then proves, I don't know. It's fucking ridiculous, really, if you ask me. But
it seems a little. Yeah, I don't want to shit on anyone's beliefs or anything.
No, that's it.
Like, you know what? I need to see it.
Oh, here it is. I've got it here. They claim that the Bible teaches and promotes the idea that the sky has a solid dome covering over the top of it. There's another one that Bible scholars believe that there's an ice canopy around the Earth, because that's the flat Earth thing as well, isn't it? Where there's
there's the ice wall.
Yeah. Humanist assertion that the Bible teaches the sky is presently a solid dome. I think that's where it all comes from. People see it as a lot of these religious scholars believe that the flat earth and God comes into one. So then I guess in a way that's how they kind of support each other. If you've got people like scholars going, oh yeah, actually this is what it says, and the flat earthers are like, yeah, it's God, that's God. So I don't know, man.
But there's other things that as well, though, that they talk about. Like I've had this conversation with one before, and it turned quite nasty. I didn't mean for it to. I was just asking a genuine question, and again, it comes down to miscommunication. And don't get me started on that in a minute. Oh fuck it. Oh. But yeah, this. He was saying about, he was like, oh yeah, it says we're spinning at like 1,000, 4,000, whatever, the speed of a bullet. I don't know. We can't feel it and all this lot. And I was like, and gravity's not real. And I was like, but what is it when you hold something up and then you drop it and it falls? What is that if that's not gravity? And he was like, no, man. They just tell you it's gravity because they want you to believe that it comes from the moon, and because they want to believe the moon's around, and so like it's a reflection of us, and that's all a lie. And I was like, all right, okay, fair enough, but what is causing this thing to drop on the floor? And he was like, instead of us spinning and shooting through space, we're actually forever going upwards.
Yep, I've heard that.
And I was like, okay. And he was like, so we're going upwards really, really fast. And that's nothing. He goes, that's just G-force, man. And I was like, dude, what does the G in G-force stand for? And then that's when he started getting nasty. And I was like, why are you being like this? I said, I'm just asking you a question. I just want the answer. I'm not like, I'm trying to politely challenge you. This is what. But looking at it now, he probably got all nasty because. Someone might have an answer for it. I'm not saying that is the be-all and end-all of all flat Earth theory. Someone smarter than me might go, well, that's because of this. And I'll be like, well, you're smarter than me, man.
Yeah.
But I think because he didn't have the answer to that, it was like that test. I didn't get the results I wanted. So I'm just pissed off and I'm going to shit all over it.
Mm.
And yeah, but for me, man, like I was saying about a minute ago of technology and stuff, for me, if there was ever a conspiracy of like us creating the machines and then the machines getting rid of us, it's by making us more stupid. And the machines are going to make us, the machines aren't going to kill us. They're going to get us to kill ourselves. They're like Jigsaw.
Yeah,
the machines, man. You know why? Because we have got, and for me, the first doomsday sign isn't the four horsemen, it's fucking emojis. We have mastered science and culture and all of this to the point where we have the definitive science fiction device in our pockets. The phone is now a supercomputer.
yeah,
It's like a sci-fi wet dream. It's like you watch any sci-fi thing and it's like, oh, you know, they've got this device they can pick up and talk into. They can hold up and look at the other person. They can be like, oh, we can find out where we are on this device. Oh, I can just get all the data. I just look on here. And at the time when you're watching it, you think, oh, they can do all that on that one device. Oh, that's convenient. Oh, these fucking space programs. Well, you know what, actually? Yeah, it is convenient. That's what we've made, Spock.
Yeah.
So fuck off. You point at you, cunt. It is convenient, yeah, actually. And that's what we've got now. And now we've got to that point and we're making these really cool machines and robots and AIs. They're like, right, how do we get rid of the humans now? Like, give them emojis. We've got them this far. Let's get them talking back in fucking hieroglyphics again, shall we? They've made us go full circle, and eventually we're going to be looking at things going, I can't read that. I don't know if that's serious or not because it hasn't got a smiley face next to it.
Is that not where we are nowadays?
Exactly.
People can barely hold a fucking conversation. Do you know what? That's a good, interesting take, actually, because people can barely hold a fucking conversation nowadays.
Oh, just listen to us.
Yeah, yeah, fuck me.
But yeah, it was like, I've been talking to people, and it's like people who have known me for years know my sense of humour. When we're together talking and chatting, it's like, yeah, oh, you can't, oh, fucking hell, I'll get you. But you do that now to somebody, and then suddenly they'll reply like, well, that's a bit fucking harsh, isn't it? And it's like,
Yeah.
who are you talking to? It's me.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, it's like, well, I didn't understand because, you know, you could have put like an emoji or an LOL or something. And it's like, oh, really? You don't know me enough to read that and think to yourself, Aaron's never just really insulting for no reason out of the blue any other time in our life. But I have every reason to think he is right now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
And that's how the machines have got us. They were like, make them rely on memes. We've gone back to hieroglyphs, mate. And we're going to go we're going to get more and more dumb, more and more stupid, and the machines are just going to be getting better and better, and then we'll just natural selection our way out of it. And the ultimate thing will be, all that will be left is machines and fungus.
To be honest, when it comes down to the machines and that, you think, you know, all they need is to break that. All they need to be is smart enough to make machines again, you know, to reprogram or you know, gain a certain level of.
Yeah, just got to replicate it, manipulate it, and then they've also got to know once they've got to evolve themselves. You know, that's what.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at like. They've got to eventually learn how to make themselves better as well. So they've got to learn to learn.
Yeah.
Because this is what we've done. It's like with any evolution, you look at things like over in the Galapagos Islands, and they will look at the stuff like, well, you know, this particular bird's got a very long beak because it goes down there and it has to get in there. So, you know, then two more birds will come along. They'll have their little mating dance, and she'll look at who's got a longer beak. He's got a longer beak, so I want his genes. So that our kids they'll definitely have the long beak because I've got a long beak too. And that's what they do with these things. They'll sit there like with kids. They give them a bicycle. Like, well, here you go, son. See, well. Give him their little bike. He gets on it. He goes down the road. He falls over. They're like, how can we make that better? Stabilizers, wheels on the side. It's just natural selection and this evolution. And the same with when we make stuff and they're like, right, we keep crashing this car. People keep smashing their face open on the steering wheel and dying. Well, what should we do? Put an airbag in there? I like it. Airbag comes out. It saves some people. Some people are getting their chests crushed. All right, let's make it a little bit higher. Make it a bit slower. You know, we see what works. We see what doesn't. That is evolution. You know, it's how the guitar is the shape it is. It probably started off as a big square box. Well, this is fucking uncomfortable. Well, maybe if we curve it down here, curve it there. Oh, that's more comfortable. Where do we go from there? It's the exact same, and it's all machines have got to do. If they can learn how to manipulate and interpretate, then the world is theirs.
Well, what do you think the end goal would be for? Say that is the case, right? Say we are.
they turn the entire thing into one single consciousness over several different brains as such.
Well, this is where it also
Like
comes
your
in.
octopus.
Well, I was going to say about, have you heard of simulation theory?
Heard of, touched on it slightly.
Yeah,
Don't know enough.
I think,
Please
yeah.
lay it on me.
Well, I think I'm going to drop it next week because we're
Please do.
we're an hour 20 minutes in, and I think if we pick up on that next week, we'll do
Ladies and
simulation.
gentlemen, simulation theory next week. I think this is something we're both going to jump into.
Yeah, fuck it. I think we're both going to do the research rather than one. Yeah, we'll both do it and see what we come up with, and we'll go full on. We'll go
See
full on
where it branches
conspiracy.
off to. Oh, people, it's on.
Yeah. So right, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, we'll call it a night. Yeah, man. Have a good one.
You too, brother.
Laters. He says laters, and the recording's still going. Stop.